So, good morning, everyone. I am Mary Rose V. Bayo, and I am here to present to you or to share with you my understanding about ratio. So, now let's begin. So, ratios are a helpful tool for comparing things to each other in mathematics and in real life. So, it is important to know what they mean and how to use them. So, what is a ratio? So in mathematics, a ratio is a comparison of two or more numbers that indicates their sizes in relation to each other. A ratio compares two quantities by division, with the dividend or number being divided termed the antecedent and the divisor or number that is dividing termed the consequent. So, for example, you have polled a group of 20 people and found that 13 of them prefer cake to ice cream and 7 of them prefer ice cream to cake. So, the ratio to represent this data set would be 13 is to 7, where 13 being the antecedent and 7 being the consequent. So now let's move on to ratios in daily life. Ratios occur frequently in daily life and help to simplify many of our interactions by putting numbers into perspective. So ratios allow us to measure and express quantities by making them easier to understand. So, example, there are there are enough cookies for every student to have two cookies per student. There are enough cookies for every student to have two cookies per 78 students. So how to write a ratio? So there are several different ways to express a ratio. So one of the most common is to write a ratio using a colon and then as this to that comparison. So for example, the ratio of the apples to oranges is 2 is to 3. So as you can see, the sentence or the statement uses a colon in expressing the ratio of the apples and the oranges. So because ratios are simple division problems, they can also be written as a fraction. So some people prefer to express ratios using only words. So simplifying ratios. So no matter how a ratio is written, it is important that it is simplified down to the smallest whole number possible, just as with any fraction. So this can be done by finding the greatest common factor between the numbers and dividing them accordingly. So with a ratio comparing 12 to 16, for example, you see that both 12 and 16 can be divided by 4. So this simplifies your ratio into 3 to 4, or the quotients you get when you divide 12 and 16 by 4. So this says 12 divided by 3 is 4 and 16 divided by 4 is 4. So your ratio can now be written as 3 is to 4, 3 over 4 or 3/4, 3 to 4, and 0.75. So a decimal is sometimes permissible, though less commonly used. So practice calculating ratios with two quantities. So practice identifying real-life opportunities for expressing ratios by finding quantities you want to compare. So simplify them into their smallest whole numbers. So you can then do this by trying to calculate these ratios and simplifying them into their smallest whole numbers. So for example, there are 6 apples in a bowl containing 8 pieces of fruit. So what is the ratio of apples to the total amount of fruit? So the answer is 6 is to 8, simplified to 3 is to 4 because 6 divided by 2 is 3 and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So if the another is if the 2 pieces of fruit that are not apples are oranges, what is the ratio of apples to oranges? So the ratio is 6 is to 2 simplified to 3 is to 1 because 6 divided by 6 divided by 2 is 3 and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So practice calculating ratios with greater than 2 quantities. So we have here instrument type. So let's say for example, we have 160 woodwinds and then 84 percussion and 56 brass. So what is the ratio of percussion to woodwinds to brass? So the answer is 84 is to 160 is to 56, simplified to 21 is to 40 and is to 14. So, why is it? Nganong kaniman? So, 84 divided by um, 84 divided by 4 is equals to 21. 160 divided by 4 is equals to 40 and 56 divided by 4 is equals to 14. So, this ends my sharing my knowledge about ratios. So I hope you learned something from me, and that's it. So thank you for listening.